Grow your career in a high-demand field at Roger Williams University's Extension School in Providence. Their trade-focused programs include apprenticeships, professional credentials, and associate degrees designed to help you build in-demand skills for today's workforce. With affordable, flexible courses that fit your schedule, you can turn your talent into a career that builds something bigger, your future. Visit rwu.edu/ext to start your path today.
From the Boston Globe, this is Rhode Island Report. I'm Ed Fitzpatrick. Welcome back to the podcast where we bring you big conversations from our very small state. Last month, the Trump administration halted construction of an offshore wind farm that was 80% complete. Revolution Wind would have provided energy for up to 350,000 households in Connecticut and Rhode Island. Here to talk about the context for this controversial decision is Roger Williams University engineering professor Maija Benitz. Professor Benitz, thank you for joining us today.
Thank you so much for having me.
So first, just set the stage. What is Revolution Wind? How many wind turbines? Where are they?
Sure. The Revolution Wind Farm is located just south of Newport. It sits basically directly between Block Island and Martha's Vineyard. It is 80% complete. They've installed 45 of 65 turbines, which if you do the math doesn't equal 80. And the reason they say 80 is because they've installed all of the foundations for the turbines. So the project really is 80% complete, even if it sounds like they haven't done 80% of the turbines. So they've put in an enormous amount of work. The project has the capacity to power about 700 megawatts of power, which is an enormous amount of power. It can power 350,000 homes. It will power homes both across Rhode Island and Connecticut. I quickly looked up in Rhode Island, there's about 400,000 households. So if it was just providing power to our state, it would be able to power almost every home in our state, which is impressive, right?
I didn't realize that.
Yeah, huge.
And how many years has this project been in the works, and when was it scheduled to come online?
Yes, so it's been in the work for several years. It's supposed to go online, I believe, in spring of 2026. We were looking forward to it until just recently. These offshore wind farms take a lot of work to get up and running, not just from the installation process until they're power producing, but it takes years and years in the pipeline of getting permitting. So there's a ton of red tape. Some of that is just because this industry is somewhat new to our country. In other places around the world, it's very much not a new industry. We can look to Europe that's been doing this kind of work for 30 years. China's been in the game for several decades as well. And so this was a really exciting new endeavor, seeing this project come online, the Empire Wind project come online. There's projects in Virginia that have been permitted. But again, it takes many, many years.
So what would losing this project mean for New England and for Rhode Island in particular?
Oh, it means so much. Losing this project is devastating to our region. We are relying on this power coming online in 2026. And so the system operators have already established a power purchase agreement with Revolution Wind. They have a set rate. They've integrated this wind farm into their plans for delivering power to consumers. So if this project doesn't come online when they expect it to, we're going to see a couple big ramifications, right? We'll see the potential for losing power. So reliability is a huge thing. Will power go out? Will we have brownouts, blackouts? The cost of power is also going to be perhaps heavily impacted by this too. That's hard to see. But we have other issues in Rhode Island as well. I mean, there's been huge investment in infrastructure, in jobs growth, in education. And so we have a bunch of union jobs. I think the numbers I've seen are something like 1,200 union jobs. These union workers that are out at the farms doing the installation work. So welders, pipe fitters, electricians that are currently out of work because of the stop work order. These are people too that I think were hoping that this wouldn't be the only farm that goes in off of our waters, right? And so when this job finishes, the anticipation was that there would be more work to come. And so in that sense, too, we also have a lot of investment in education.
So you raise a good point. Could you provide us some context about the role Rhode Island has played in terms of launching this offshore wind industry in the United States? Because we're Wasn't the Block Island wind farm the first in the nation?
Absolutely. Yes, it was. So that was hugely exciting. The Block Island wind farm was the very first offshore wind farm in our country. It's 5 turbines located pretty much due south of Block Island. So if you've ever been to the South Lighthouse, you can see the array of them right there. That was a really exciting project, though, of course, much smaller in scale and scope compared to Revolution Wind and its peer projects that are going in now. So it was very much a pilot project, but it's been producing power for a good decade or so, providing stable power to the islanders who previous to that were running all of their appliances and homes on generators, which if you have a backup generator for storms in your home, you understand that the fuel is really expensive and it's really noisy, and you try not to run it as much as you can. The Block Island project also connected the island back to the mainland by running a cable, so they can both deliver excess power that's produced by the farm back to the mainland or pull power to the island from the mainland if the wind happens to not be blowing very strongly that day.
Could you provide us with some context for the Revolution Wind decision in terms of how many other wind power projects are in the works in this area, and have any others been halted?
Yes, there are several that are in the works in this area. Vineyard Wind is actually producing power. It's not fully completed, but they have turbines that are fully operational.
That's proceeding. That hasn't been stopped.
That hasn't been stopped.
Yeah.
The Empire Wind project in New York State was halted, and so I consider that almost a mirror of what is happening now in Rhode Island.
Yeah, what did you make of what ended up happening in New York? Because, yeah, they stopped the project, but then the governor of New York agreed to a pipeline proposal, or maybe not.
Or maybe not,
right? Tell us what happened there.
So that's a very controversial one. I see it really as the Trump administration practicing extortion. They pushed and pushed on the governor. They said, we're stopping this wind farm. We're going to push and push on you until we get what we want. The Trump administration, from what I've read in the news at least, has said that they got what they want and that the governor conceded on a natural gas pipeline to go through New York State. What I've seen the governor say in quotes is that they did no such thing in New York State. So there seems to be some disagreement, at least from what I can see. The project is back and running, but it has the same issues that Revolution Wind is seeing right now, right? Every day that they are not working on installing that farm, they are losing millions of dollars. We have these union workers sitting idly. They've brought in an enormous amount of ships and boats to do this installation work. And so Empire Wind lost a lot of money while they were sitting idly. They are fully back to work.
And Revolution Wind's losing money now, right?
Every day. And we hope to see them come back to work. But Ørsted took a different tact than trying to negotiate with the Trump administration to try and figure out what they wanted, natural gas pipeline or whatnot, and instead chose to sue the Trump administration.
Yeah, we've seen lawsuits filed by Ørsted in Washington, D.C., and by Connecticut and Rhode Island here in the U.S. District Court in Providence. Do you think this is going to be resolved with a legal solution or a political solution?
I honestly have no idea. I mean, this is brand new territory.
Yeah.
We really only have Empire Wind to look at as a previous example. We'll see what happens with Revolution Wind. There are a handful of projects that are being built or have been fully permitted. But from the day Trump entered office, he said this is the end. There will be no more approval of offshore wind projects. So only the projects that already have approval can proceed forward currently.
U.S. Senator Sheldon Whitehouse, a Rhode Island Democrat, recently posted a message on social media saying, after Trump's fossil fuel goons shut down Revolution Wind, I've been waiting for the phone to ring with the ransom demand. But maybe this is attempted murder, not extortion, and there'll be no demand. So which do you think it is? Is the administration trying to extract a concession, or are they trying to kill the wind industry?
Maybe both, and maybe they're going to see what works first or best. They absolutely are trying to kill the wind industry in the U.S., though that's been very clear, regardless of this stop work order from Revolution Wind. That was clear for a long time.
Yeah, what is the rationale that the Trump administration provides for stopping Revolution Wind?
None. I watched a video of a session with Representative Seth Magaziner meeting with a representative from the Department of the Interior asking over and over again, what is the rationale? What is the rationale? And the representative from the Department of Interior said, look at the letter, look at the letter. And Seth Magaziner held up the letter and we could all see it was less than a page. Not enough space to give any sort of proper rationale. And so either the Trump administration doesn't understand the rationale, or it appears that there is no rationale beyond saying perhaps a national security threat.
Are there any national security threats to those turbines out there?
Not that I can see. Not any more so than some of our other infrastructure, our power grid, data centers. I mean, anything could be a national security threat, but without added detail, I cannot fathom what they are talking about.
On September 3rd, the New York Times reported that the White House has instructed a half dozen agencies to draft plans to thwart the country's offshore wind industry. For example, Health and Human Services is studying whether wind turbines are emitting electromagnetic fields that could harm human health. So what does that tell you, and what does that mean for the near-term future of the wind power industry?
They're attacking it from every angle, right? The common complaints about wind energy, sure, people are worried about electromagnetic fields, which to me is nothing to be concerned about. People complain about the noise. And yes, if you are standing directly under a turbine, you can hear the blades whipping around. They actually move fairly slowly, so it's a slow whip, and you have to be standing in exactly the right location, either directly under the turbine or the wind blowing directly at your face. Some people don't like the look of them, and I mean, that's a matter of opinion.
Yeah, the president says they're ugly.
He says they're ugly, yes. And that's actually one of the benefits for developing offshore, right, is the turbines in Rhode Island, Revolution Wind, the Block Island turbines, you can see them, but really only on a clear day. If you go down to Newport and stand on the southern beaches in Newport, you can see them just slightly, really if you bring binoculars too, and it's perfectly clear. But we can develop even further offshore than those turbines are being placed, and so they truly would be out of sight, as opposed to some of the turbines that we see on land here, right? Look no further than the Port of Providence, and you can see a small array. There's an array in Johnston that you can see as well. One of the big parts of offshore wind is that we can put them farther out to sea where they don't have to be in anyone's way, at least any human's way.
We'll have more with Maija Benitz after a quick break.
If you're a future scholar or family starting the college search, let me tell you about Roger Williams University. They offer a real-world education that lets you combine your major with what you love. Create powerful combinations like sustainability and marine biology, or architecture and graphic design, or business and construction management. And their campus in Bristol, Rhode Island is one of the safest college towns in the U.S. Trust me, you'll be hooked by the views the moment you set foot on campus. Visit rwu.edu and discover Roger Williams University.
Shopify's point-of-sale system helps you sell at every stage of your business. Need a fast and secure way to take payments in person? We've got you covered. How about card readers you can rely on anywhere you sell?
Thanks. Have a good one.
Yep, that too. Want one place to manage all your online and in-person sales? That's kind of our thing. Wherever you sell, businesses that grow with Shopify. Sign up for your $1 a month trial at shopify.com/listen. Shopify.com/listen.
In 2021, Rhode Island passed a law called the Act on Climate, which makes the state's goals for reducing greenhouse gas emissions mandatory and enforceable. It calls for net zero emissions by 2050. So will Rhode Island be able to comply with that law if Revolution Wind does not proceed?
No, is the quick answer. When we look at a state like ours, it's heavily populated. There just isn't much space to build new projects, whether that be a solar farm, a wind farm, or even developing new natural gas power plants. And so if we are going to have a huge population center and no area to develop, we're left in this position of offshore wind being our best ally. We can develop offshore where there is space. The resources also excellent offshore. The wind blows stronger. It blows more consistently. We can harness much better wind energy offshore than we can onshore.
Yeah, Rhode Island has 400 miles of coastline, as you know, there at the Roger Williams campus. What's at stake in our attempts to address climate change here in Rhode Island?
I mean, everything. Climate change is real. We're seeing crazier weather all the time. We're getting bigger heat waves in the summer. And so that goes back to needing better, more reliable power to produce air conditioning capacity for consumers. We're seeing winter storms that we haven't seen before, different types of storms. We need reliable power, and we need power too that's not damaging to the environment, because we're further fueling this climate change disaster by continuing to burn fossil fuels left and right.
Yeah, what has ISO New England said about the need for this power coming online? You don't often hear from this organization.
Yeah, ISO stands for Independent System Operator. And so they're the folks that oversee the mixture of power that goes to consumers, whether that be businesses or homes. They said we need this project, that it's going to be devastating. And my understanding is ISO doesn't usually issue statements like that. They're a very non-political entity. So to see them step up with a statement is really telling, compelling, and troubling, I would say.
Could you give us a sense of what other countries do in terms of wind power? Who's charging ahead? Is it Norway, China?
Norway is a big leader. Denmark is a huge leader as well. So Ørsted is the company that's developing Revolution Wind, and they're based in Denmark. But just about every Western European country you can think of has a wind energy company and is invested in it. An offshore wind project is designed to last 25 to 30 years. And in Europe, they're starting to decommission their first farms. Well, we're really just starting with it. So that really puts it in perspective. They're taking turbines out of the water that lasted the full lifetime that they were supposed to last, produced power, were profitable. China has also installed a ton of offshore wind farms. I think they beat Europe by a handful of megawatts if you're going to do the numbers comparison. They're heavily invested in it too. So it's almost an embarrassment that we're so far behind. We have the technology, we have the expertise from an engineering, from a blue collar working perspective to do this. And so there's no reason that we should be lagging behind our peers across the globe.
Let me ask you about some of the common criticisms of wind power. You often hear that offshore wind is too expensive. Rhode Island Energy locked in a price over 20 years for power for Revolution Wind of 9.8 cents per kilowatt hour. How does that compare to current market rates?
It's excellent. I checked out my power bill before coming here. Depending on the month, we pay different rates. So in the winter, it'll spike. But that number is below any rate that I've paid on a power bill in the last year. So it's really excellent. Onshore wind is the cheapest kind of power to produce, hands down. We aren't there yet with offshore wind because the installation is more complicated and therefore more expensive. But as we grow this capacity and this rate of installation, that price can come down precipitously, right? We are paying for new types of boats to build these farms. And so the more farms we build with that one boat, that helps our cost. So it's in our interest to build more so that we can further bring down that cost.
So I know that Roger Williams University students help to teach local fourth graders about wind energy through the semester-long Kid Wind project. Tell us about that.
Absolutely. Yes. So our Kid Wind Community Engagement Project is the long version of it. Kid Wind we pull from a set of model turbine kits that are developed by a company called Vernier. We've taken their product and we've put our own spin on it. So I've partnered with a Professor Li-Ling Yang in the education department at Roger Williams. And so every spring we bring together her students in the education department and my engineers, and we partner them up on interdisciplinary teams. So my engineers bring their technical expertise, the education majors bring their teaching expertise, and they develop an arc of 5 lessons where they go into local fourth grade classrooms and teach them about the engineering design process, wind turbines, and by the end of the 5th lesson, the fourth graders have built model wind turbines, and then they come on their yellow school buses to our campus for a day long. We call it a celebration instead of a competition. And so all of the fourth graders get to test their model wind turbines in a wind tunnel, and we tally up how much energy and power they've produced over the day. They get to interact with practicing engineers from the wind industry because we have them here in Rhode Island. And so that's been a fun partnership as well. My engineers gain a lot from it, public speaking wise. The education majors gain a lot from the technological skills, and the fourth graders have a lot of fun learning about what's going on in their backyards.
Looking ahead, Professor, what do you see for the future of offshore wind here in New England?
Well, I have to be hopeful because climate change is real and we desperately need clean forms of energy. We've got this huge pipeline in Rhode Island, right? Workforce development from the fourth graders to the community college students who are going into the blue collar, blue economy jobs out off on the ocean, to my engineering students who take my wind turbine class because they want to be wind turbine designers. So I'm hopeful. I worried that some of my students may go over to Europe for a couple years and lend their expertise to the companies that are actively working there. So think about that as a brain drain in the US. And I can think of at least one student who has done exactly that. And so we hope to bring them back so that we can really leverage the expertise and talent we have in Rhode Island. And so the Trump administration has made it very clear that they will not be permitting new offshore farms during their administration. But I am very hopeful in the future that the tide will change and that we can bring back more farms.
Professor Maija Benitz, thank you for joining us today.
Thank you so much for having me.
Rhode Island Report is a production of the Boston Globe in collaboration with Roger Williams University. Today's episode was produced by Megan Hall. Our music is from APM. Be sure to follow us on Apple, Spotify, or wherever you listen. I'm Ed Fitzpatrick. See you next week.
Think about the app you've been wanting to build. Sell something you've created, run your community, manage your business, or launch your next idea. Now, imagine it's live before today's over. Meet Base44, the fastest way to turn any idea into a fully functional app. No code, no waiting, just describe what you want and watch it come together. Backend, design, and all in minutes. A real product ready to share. From idea to live app fast. Start building today at base44.com.